welcome to SUS's Industry Talk. Tonight we are joined by Connell Griffin in our fourth installment of a six-part Pet Hour program. Connell Griffin is a specialist commercial and contract management advisory firm, taking part in eminent projects such as Sydney Metro and Parramatta Light Rail. We're lucky enough today to have with us tonight Daniel Sawito. Daniel is a transport infrastructure advisor with almost 10 years of experience. Jason Key, consultant with a background in the property advisory sector, and Bob Shen, an undergraduate consultant, currently studies civil engineering and architecture here at Sydney University. Now we will start off with Connell Griffin's introductory video, followed by the chance to hear from our guest speakers, their background, roles, and the amazing opportunities Connell Griffin has in store for you. If you do have any questions, Slido is open throughout the entire presentation to have your questions answered by the end.
Connell Griffin is a commercial advisory firm operating in the infrastructure industry. Connell Griffin was established in 2013 because the founders wanted to set up an entirely employee-owned and independent business of specialised personnel. At Connell Griffin, we've already completed over 330 projects successfully for 90 plus clients.
Connell Griffin divides its services into 4 quadrants. We've got Develop, which is the front-end advisory service.
So Develop is about working with our clients in the very earliest stages of their projects and programs, identifying the key risk items. So Connell Griffin have worked with school infrastructure to develop a process and a strategy that brings forward some of those de-risking elements into the very earliest stages of projects.
It is focused on upgrading existing school facilities, so new classrooms, new school halls.
Pick up and drop off and traffic solving and in-ground conditions and things like that.
We've got Procure, which is the transaction and contract execution of the project.
Our procurement services are the comprehensive suite required to take a client from project approval through to contract close and delivery readiness.
The future public transport ticketing project is where the state is seeking to a base system into an account-based system.
We've got Deliver, which is actually delivering the live project from beginning to end.
Everything from the setting up of contractual administrative processes of a project all the way through to the management of cost, time and financial reporting throughout the duration of the project.
The City and South West project is an extension of the North West Rail Link line. It will have the driverless trains every 3 minutes going from Chatswood through the city out to the Bankstown line.
And we have Resolve. This helps clients determine any dispute resolution or any project finalisation.
Claims management, settlement of contentious variations and claims, including time and cost, arbitration and litigation support. The project that I work on in Queensland is a litigation matter on a roads project. It's one of the busiest highway in Queensland.
Clients choose to work with Connell Griffin because we provide advice across every sector at every stage of the project lifecycle.
We're able to guide project teams through what can be a complex and high risk phase of the project's development.
We know that we can do a great job and have fun along the way too.
So just to start off the night, please introduce yourself, your background, and what your role entails at Connell Griffin.
Yeah, sure. I'll start. So hi everyone, and hi everyone online. My name is Daniel Sawito, and I'm an advisor within Connell Griffin. Joined the company close to 1.5 years now. So my role is currently out of the 4 quadrants, just pointing at the banner, because out of the 4 quadrants, I'm in that procure service, and then now moving on to deliver as well. So what it is I'm sort of taking care of the procurement of the project from start to finish in terms of, tender going out, getting bids from the market, and then when they bid the project, we evaluate and then we award the contract. And then once the contract's awarded, it's that transition to delivery when they're actually putting the crew on the ground and building the actual infrastructure. So my background, I was a design engineer for about 5 years earlier on in my career. And I sort of pivoted and started doing this sort of role, sort of a commercial advisory, bit of management thing, really. So yeah, and just been enjoying it since.
So I'm Jason. I've recently joined Connell Griffin as a consultant. So my background is civil engineering. I actually studied civil engineering here at City Uni, and I majored in construction management. And towards the back end of my study, I would say that I think I wasn't as much into the technical side of things as overall project. And that's why I decided to focus more on the project management side of things. And I've previously spent a year in property advisory. And I ran into Connell Griffin through Daniel. And I heard about all the great projects they've worked on. And in particular, the Parramatta Light Rail project really intrigued me, the work they did on it. This was because during my studies, I wrote a thesis on cost overruns in public transport infrastructure projects. And it was something that I really wanted to get involved in. And yeah, that's me.
Hello, I'm Bob. I actually am still studying here at UCID. So I'm an undergrad consultant for Connell Griffin. And while I'm finishing my studies, I am working there part-time. And I am located in the appointments. Because my current project is Sydney Metro, Barangaroo. They're finishing the station, and in order to do that, they've put in an acceleration deed, which is to finish the project quicker than expected, basically. And because of that, there's lots of changes in the contract that have needed to happen, and I'm just helping the team there manage all the changes that come in terms of cost and time and stuff.
Yeah. Lovely to meet you all. So tell us about a standout project you've done through the course of your career and why it was so significant to you.
Yeah. So one that popped in mind is the project that I'm in now. Actually, it's the M7 M12 integration project. What that is we're helping out Transurban, so a private sector client, to procure and deliver this project, which is essentially it's a interchange and connection to the new M12 motorway up to the new Western Sydney Airport up in Badgerys Creek. So it's quite a state significant project. I think it's about in the billions of dollars. That's the cost. So, and the responsibility to sort of to deliver this project is very rewarding for myself personally. Got a good team as well from Connell Griffin who were very supportive of what we do, and then I was always able to lean on them and sort of get the right guidance from my seniors on that project. So that's why I found it was really rewarding, and yeah, and the clients were really good as well. Because sometimes you get good clients, you get bad clients, but in this case, I was really fortunate that Transurban was such a good client to work with, and yeah, at the end we managed to finish the procurement in record time actually, and managed to award the contract to the appropriate design and construct contract. And yeah, and the feedback has been really good. The procurement process was smooth, and then now it's just a matter of delivering the project. So yeah, that's my example project.
Yeah. For me, it would be one of the earlier projects I worked in since joining Connell Griffin, and it will be based upon the developed space. So basically, we were tasked with a job to find out where the most suitable location would be to build a school, especially with the growth of the Western Sydney Airport. And so my role was to do some initial background research and analyzing population data, student projections, and all that kind of things. So then you would have a better idea of where everyone's located and where you would best locate the schools. And it's a very big investment. And that's why it's very important to de-risk everything. So that was my role, was to help them de-risk by identifying where the students will be, where they're at the moment, and any other factors such as religion or age or socioeconomic background, because that's when you decide the private schools or the public schools. So I guess that was the major project that I've worked on since I've joined Connell.
Yeah. For me, I've only been on one project because I only started last December, but the Sydney Metro Barangaroo project has really been stand up for me because I think as a student, it's the first time I'm getting real life experience, but it's also the first time where I feel like what I'm learning or what I'm working on actually has a real life impact. Because, for example, I was working on a penetrations claim where I had to assess thousands of individual penetrations, whether they happened, whether the work was done, what it would cost. And after doing that at the desk, I could then go on site with the site engineer and see the exact like walls and stuff where they were actually built or not built. And that was like really rewarding to me because it shows like what I'm doing actually has like an actual impact. And yeah, just seeing the train station, it's really a beautiful place to work, like Rangaroo, and seeing the station, like going down into the tunnels before like anyone gets to see it as well, was really, really rewarding for me. And I wouldn't have expected it to happen to me as a student. So that's definitely been Standout.
Yeah, you could really see from all these projects just how diverse the projects Connell Griffin takes on, which is great. Yeah, so just backing off that, what do you find most enjoyable about your job and what are some challenges?
Yeah, definitely the most enjoyable part is just interacting with the clients and your team members. I mean, trying to sort of understand what the client wants. A lot of it is sort of to do with how you can apply your interpersonal skill and your communication skill, being able to articulate what you sort of your work, and also being able to ask the right questions to them. And yeah, what I found is really rewarding for me is sort of, you know, because the clients really understand sort of the project as a whole, it makes it so much easier for us to be able to deliver our scope. And also my team members have been brilliant as well. Like if I get stuck on anything, then I can easily just bring up my my team lead, or just, you know, he's sitting next to me, I'll just go, hey, can you help me with this sort of thing? And they'll always you know, have they'll always be available for you. And that's what I found ever since I joined Connell Griffin. Like, I've got the support I needed to be able to succeed in what I do. There are some challenges though, and definitely in terms of that, the challenges, I suppose, when we first start, we do need to sort of prove to the client of, you know, our capabilities, how we can tackle the project, how we can help them. I think this sort of that initial period, I feel like it's key. For me, it's challenging because I suppose I need to understand exactly what the client wants, and then understand the direction, and then being able to take ownership of that, of the work, and then being able to deliver it. But at the end, you know, and as long as you ask the right questions, sometimes you do ask the stupid questions and they don't mind it, as long as you don't ask it twice, because it gets silly by the second time around. But yeah, if you ask the right questions, you show initiatives, and then you actually, you know, you lean on your teammates as well to be able to deliver the work, then the clients really appreciate that. So all those earlier challenges can be turned into something good, and then you'll be able to undertake your task a lot better, and then be able to deliver for the client, sort of.
And for me, I guess there's two main things that I've enjoyed about Connell Griffin. The first one, Dan sort of touched on, was, I'd say, the culture. Because not only do you feel supported, it's genuinely enjoying to go to work every day. And for me personally, if you enjoy where you are working, that's when you produce the best quality of work. And at Connell Griffin, there's the social activities. And recently we just had our 10th birthday. It was nice to meet all our team members around the country. And in terms of work, if you have a problem in other places, you might not feel as comfortable opening up to your superiors. But at Connell Griffin, the culture makes you feel like you could talk to anyone in the company and they'll offer you that support. And the second one would be the types of projects that we work on. So such as like Sydney Metro or social infrastructure projects like schools. And I'm currently working on the project for ambulance side of things, is you sort of feel like you're genuinely making a difference to society. And the projects we work on, everyone would, you know, have a direct impact on it every day. For example, Sydney Metro or West Connects. So I guess that's what makes Connell Griffin special and a great place to be at.
I think for me, I already mentioned how rewarding the work was. That was fantastic. And then, yeah, just adding upon Daniel and Jason, the culture is fantastic because sometimes I don't work at the office. I work at the site office, and I go, oh, and I wish I had a few days of the week that I could just go back to the CG office and see everyone and have the free beer fridge and everything. But I think it's like also the way that you're treated as an employee as well has been really like just enjoyable. I think at uni, at school, I mean, you don't get treated the best at uni, do you? Like lecturers and the UCID customer service is just completely horrible. But once you're
in this building. Yeah.
Oh, well, the lecturers are fine, but just the customers.
Oh, okay, yeah, fair enough.
But when you get to like a company like CG, that's different from like a large company where they don't really care about the employees either. You really just feel like a valued member. All the benefits and stuff you get, the way they talk to you, like as just like a friend, not as like an undergrad, for example. That's been a great thing. And in terms of challenges, I'd say just adapting to a workplace for me personally, because for example, when I joined, I barely knew any Excel, and now all I'm doing is Excel almost every day. And I've been supported through the whole process, but it is a bit of a change because you assume you're doing this, and then when you actually get to work, you're doing something completely different. So yeah, just that bit of a shift. That's what the challenge was.
I think just to add to that, I mean, we talk a lot about sort of the CG culture and how it is like working for CG. Just to give a bit of background, because we're only 10 years young, like the company is really sort of not at all. And then there's only, I think, 100 employees
On the dot, I think.
Yeah, on the dot now. Yeah, so that's across the 4 states. So New South Wales, ACT, Victoria, and Queensland. So there is sort of that family feel to it where, you feel like you can just talk to anyone and just be welcome sort of thing. And I suppose that's sort of born out of the company founders they really put emphasis on the company culture and the type of persons that they're bringing. So the people that they're bringing, they need to be capable, but also likable, because we want to have people who are not just capable, not just smart, but also well-liked, presentable, because a lot of the works that we do, we sort of second out people. So you'll be working within a government organization or within your client organization and be embedded there as almost like their full-time staff. So we want to be able to be confident to present you to the client, saying, hey, Jason's a great guy. He'll be there helping you. And the way we know that is, is if you have a good personality and someone who can be well liked by the client. So, and I think Bob mentioned about sort of the office culture. Yeah, it's almost like working for Facebook or Google to me, because like they have free snacks, they got free soft drinks,
Free lunch.
Not lunch. Sometimes we do actually. Yeah.
That's it.
There's some lunches. I mean, if there's new people, you get treated to like free lunch if you're in the office.
A few weeks ago.
That happened a few weeks ago.
The ramen.
Oh, the ramen, yeah. Actually, I organize a ramen lunch with
That's
the
how you were
team.
hired, probably.
Yeah, that's right. And they provide breakfast as well. So I tend to come in the morning and have the crunchy nuts or whatever, like the cornflakes. And so yeah, little things like that. So they really value you and really wanted to make it easy for you. You really want you to enjoy coming into work. But at the same time, they're very flexible. Like if you need to work from home, like for example, I work from home like 3 days a week or sometimes 2 days, but it's very like that flexible working arrangement. A lot of times it's sort of, you play by the client's rule, but nowadays clients are, they know that flexible working arrangement is the way to go. So I don't think any client would expect you to be in the office like 5 days a week. It's expected that you can sort of work from home 1 or 2 days a week. But yeah, so culture, people, that's sort of what we're priding ourselves on at Connell Griffin.
Yeah, it's quite impressive how Connell Griffin's only 10 years, but you're taking on these like flagship projects, like rail, metro, all of that. So it's very impressive. Yeah, so now we move on to some personalized questions. So I'll start off with Daniel. We understand that you have almost 10 years of experience in delivering rail and road projects in both government and private sector. So what are some changes you've seen in the industry throughout your career, and where do you expect the industry to head into the future?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, just touch on the 10-year experience. Yes, so I graduated 10 years ago from UNSW, Bachelor of Civil Engineering. I did civil and commerce, and then I dropped the commerce and sort of just did straight civil. Great choice. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and the first 5 years of my career, like I mentioned earlier, I was a design engineer with WSP, doing a lot of roads and rail design. And then after about 5 years, I sort of thought, no, I don't really want to design things for the rest of my life. I sort of wanted to understand projects from sort of a higher level, get involved in a lot of different things, not just design component of a project. And that's why I sort of moved into more management consulting. And then found myself in Connell Griffin sort of close to 1.5 years ago. In terms of what I've observed the last sort of 10 years, definitely Australia, and in particular New South Wales, there's been a lot of money that's being pumped to the economy in the infrastructure sector. And I think that sort of a lot of it is to do with the government that is in charge today. So, I mean, the last 12 years we had Liberal government here in New South Wales. Then they're a lot of the infrastructure pipeline. The infrastructure pipeline is strong. They're pumping a lot of money towards roads and rail, and you can see it pretty much. Sydney Metro, all these new motorways, all these different roads and rail projects. So that's been good in a way for this industry. For sort of, if you're a civil engineer or if working in that sort of infrastructure space, it's been so rewarding sort of the last 10, 12 years. Now, what I'm sort of observing is there is a certain shift towards more sort of less of the road and rail, but more into sort of the energy and renewable energy sector. And I think that's also sort of some of those is sort of born out of this whole zero net emission, zero carbon target, and what it's called, like one of those. But yeah, sort of that shift towards more renewable energy future. And also now we've got the Labor government in power in New South Wales. So there'll be a lot of policies that may shift towards that sort of thing. And also other industries like school and health infrastructure, that's also big. But the good thing is, I suppose Connell Griffin plays in all of those industries, like as you can see the second banner there. So we're not just a road and rail specialist, although that's sort of taking up a lot of our projects over the last sort of 10 years. But we also are into the social infrastructure, power and utilities, aviation, maritime. So there's a lot of these different industries that are now, we're sort of branching out, not just doing roads and rail. And that's why the future is exciting, especially for you guys. I mean, you're civil engineering students, you're probably just thinking buildings, roads, rail, but there's actually so much more than just those three in terms of, what a civil engineer can do. And later on, if you decide to do this type of role, join a management consulting or an infrastructure advisory, there's actually the possibility is endless, really. And the good thing about us is because there's a lot of, I suppose, there's a lot of mix between government and private sector projects. So we can sort of switch between the two, and we can sort of adapt quickly where there's a change in government, for example, or a change in approach in terms of what money they're bringing into the pipeline. So yeah, so what I can see is the next few years is going to be that energy, health, school, that sort of infrastructure will be built, and it's exciting.
I just might add one more question. Between government and private contractors, when you're working with them, are there any differences or what's unique about each of them?
Sure, yeah, that's actually a good question. So with government, there is a lot of emphasis on getting the right result for the project to be approved. So as you know, like sort of in Australia, we have sort of multi-layered government, right? So in terms of sometimes if the project is both state and federally funded, then you need approval from the state level, then going up to sort of the federal level sort of thing. So what I found in terms of government projects, there are multi-layered approvals, and that there's a few hoops that you sort of have to go through for certain things to be approved. Whereas comparing that to private, there's a lot of emphasis in, time is money. So we need to get things as quickly moving as possible. So a lot of the decisions are made quicker. I've been in sort of, meetings for private sector projects where pretty much, the decision makers are in the meeting room with me and they just go, this is what I want you to do, go do it, sort of thing. Whereas sometimes for government projects, it'll be, okay, we'll give us the briefing note, write us the letter, we'll think about it, we'll make a decision, sort of thing. So, which is not bad. I mean, I'm not criticizing it, especially because with government, there's a lot of emphasis of, you need to cater for what the public wants. You definitely won't want anything to go wrong that can end up, being on the back page of a newspaper or news. Yeah, or a current affair or news the next night or something like that. So yeah, so definitely there's a lot of sort of safeguard and a lot of framework for that not to happen. Whereas in private, there's a lot more freedom and there's a lot of things that get done quicker. Yeah.
Thank you. So Jason, having worked in the property advisory sector, what are some aspects about it that are different to other sectors? And what advice would you give students who are interested in joining this area?
I think, well, I've only really worked in 3 sectors. I've worked like as an engineer, part-time engineer. I've worked in the property advisory sector and the infrastructure sector. So I would say for the property advisory sector, you're representing one client. And quite often it's very important to make sure things like the IRR, like in terms of the costs and the profit needs to be there. And you look at things like how it fits into like the housing strategy or like the local environment plan to see like to prove to the council or the approval agency that you're dealing with that why this should be built. And then second of all, you need to make sure that it generally generates some value to yourself as well as the overall community. How this differs from, let's say, infrastructure. Infrastructure, you look at things from a more macro point of view, such as all the decisions you make impacts everyone. Whereas for the property sector, I would say your main focus is on the client, of course, and the overall success of the project. And how this differs from, so what I would recommend for people interested in this area, for the property advisory area, I would say you got to genuinely love what you do. Like, if you don't love what you do, then there's no point doing it. Like, because a lot of people I know in property do it for the money or other incentives, right? But then at the end of the day, if you won't enjoy yourself if you enter the property advisory sector for the wrong reasons. I think that's the way I'd put it. Yeah.
Thank you. And for Bob, I think you might have answered part of this question. So what made you pick Connell Griffin over other infrastructure companies, and how would undergraduates or graduate fit into the company's culture? And I just might add, what are some aspects of university that helped within that transition to corporate, that you've noticed?
Sure. First part was
so what made you pick Connell Griffin over other companies?
I think, well, how I joined Connell Griffin was I kind of went to an event like this, or maybe more like the Swiss networking nights, and Daniel was speaking on one of the panels, and I kind of just went, he seems like the best panelist with what he talked about in terms of the answers and like what he said about and what you said about the company as well, Daniel. So that really attracted me. And a couple months later, I applied because there was another event and there was another representative from CG, and they're really friendly towards me. And they were just kind of like, oh, you should apply to our company as well. You study civil engineering, stuff like that. And that's kind of what initially led me to apply for it over other companies. Just kind of like the connection with them and what I had seen from the company. And I guess what kind of caused me to stay is something Daniel actually said last year, which was it's a small company, like a small community company with like a big company benefits. So you have your tight-knit colleagues, you have a lot of social events, you get to know everyone and enjoy coming to work. But you also have the opportunity to work on like a huge amount of projects and like really impactful projects and explore different kind of areas, and also just like get treated to like employee perks as well, just like free lunch sometimes.
A lot of times actually.
So those are the things why I chose out both companies. In terms of where does undergrad play into the company culture, I would say it's not really any different from any other member of the company, to be honest. Obviously you're not like a director or whatever influencing big decisions, but in terms of how you fit into the culture, like you're treated as just any other employee. Like I can go to social events, I can organize social events. Everyone treats you as an equal. So I would say the impact's exactly the same as almost anyone else. And the last part was
just what are some aspects of uni that helped that transition into?
I think in terms of uni, because it's not like a design engineering company. Connell Griffin's not just focused on doing maths and calculations and whatever. It's more general advisory and consultancy. I would say the stuff I learned at uni doesn't necessarily translate. And most people would probably tell you that too. I think what helped me more at uni was the extracurriculars that I did. So like societies and like hosting events and all that stuff, which kind of developed like more of my soft skills and connections. And just ability to communicate with people and like, I don't know, manage teams or stuff like that. That helped a lot more than just focusing on studies and stuff. So yeah, I think extracurriculars from the university definitely.
And sorry, can I just add to that? Yeah, as per what Bob said, so we, in this consulting and advisory space, we tend to sort of sell soft skills really, because yeah, we're like what Bob mentioned, we're not design engineers, we're like brilliant at maths or doing, you know, calculating whatever the strength of a beam across whatever, a bridge or whatever. I'm just making it up, right? So in a lot of this, we really depend on our management skills, our communication skills, our interpersonal skills, being able to analyze what's important. When you hear a client say something, you'll be able to dissect that and analyze what's important for them and be able to then translate that to your work and be able to execute the task well. So yeah, in a lot of what we do, we sort of depend on our soft skills, and that's why it's really important for us to bring in the right people. So we've had, you know, instances in the past where we interviewed someone and we knew he's brilliant, he's got whatever 99 out of 100 wham whatnot, but if they're only academically good but they're not soft skill good sort of thing, or a people person sort of thing, then I'm sorry, this sort of line of work is probably not really for you. But if you are interested in sort of, you know, leaning on your soft skills and being able to deal with a lot of people, that management skills, interpersonal communication, then yeah, this line of work is really for you. And Bob here is a perfect example of sort of, you know, he joined us as an intern. We liked him so much and we offered him a part-time role while he's finishing his work. And if we still like you, Bob, by the end of this year, then you have a grad job there coming for you next year. So yeah, so yeah, that's pretty much. So we tend to want to keep our good people and definitely reward them. And yeah, then that internship can lead you to sort of a part-time job in your last year of study, and then eventually a grad role with us. So yeah.
Great. I think you've answered my next question,
Oh.
so which is, what advice would you give students who wish to enter the advisory sector in the infrastructure industry? I'll still open up to everyone if there's anything specific to talk about into that question.
I think just keep an open mind and be ready to learn new things every day. I think that's the main thing.
Sure. I kind of already mentioned a bit as well, but just, yeah, I mean, focus on you as a person, developing yourself as a person. I think self-development through uni is probably the most important part of securing a job, especially in advisory, where you're valued in your skills as a person rather than your specific skills in maths or engineering or something. It's the whole package that really helps you. So I'd say like self-development, self-awareness, stuff like that.
And I might add to that, and this is something I've learned over course of my 10-year sort of career, but never underestimate any task, however small that is. I think I mentioned this at the last SUS event I was speaking at, but yes, you know, you can be, as a graduate or as an intern, sometimes some of the tasks that you get asked to do can be mundane, like, you know, update this spreadsheet, ensure, I don't know, conditional formatting works in this one, but just don't underestimate that, you know, because things like that, like updating Excel, however small that is, that can go a long way towards later on in your career. Because even now, like sometimes I even lean on some of the junior staff to go, hey, can you help me with this Excel spreadsheet? Because I never really did that sort of in the past. So, and that's how then you can develop that sort of attention to detail. That's also key in what we do. So yeah, you know, if you start small, you actually take care of that task to the best of your ability. You pay attention to detail, you actually, you know, undertake it fully and then be responsible, take ownership of it, then that's really good, because that will help you along your career later on when you get assigned portfolio of billion or millions of dollars, or taking care of I don't know, claims for like a big corporation or a big project. then you know that you've been having all this practice with all the smaller tasks, all the more mundane tasks, and that builds up your confidence to be able to then undertake those larger tasks well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I had. But I might open the floor up to any questions, whether in person or on Zoom.
Yeah.
My main question was, what sort of softwares do you guys use in your day-to-day activities?
Excel. And Word.
Sounds like it. But,
Yeah. We also use other ones. So like the online platform, there's Ansarada. I'm not sure if you've heard that. That's more special software for procurement. A lot of sort of with that sort of tender management, bid management. Some of the larger contractor organizations, they use Teambinder and Aconex, which is more of sort of data storing and correspondence. But it's almost like an extension of Outlook, really, extension of Mail. But yeah, we don't expect you to be able to use AutoCAD or design software like Revit or what else is there, Civil 3D or things like that, because we don't design, right? Yeah. So a lot of it is that management of things, and Excel is a very handy Microsoft Office suite. So.
So we had one question online. They asked, did you ever feel unsure about what career path or job you wanted to get into whilst at university?
Yeah, 100%. Like more than 100% even. Like because I do architecture and civil engineering, and I think when I started uni, I was like, I want to be an architect, and I'll do civil engineering just in case that doesn't work out. But it's almost the opposite now. Then I'm like, I definitely want to go into civil engineering because I started enjoying the civil engineering courses more and also doing better in them. And also looking at the job prospects of architecture, it's just not great. So I was like, okay, I definitely want to do civil engineering, and through that you can either go into more design engineering, or you can go into like consultancies, which is what we do here, or just even management consultancy, which is completely different from infrastructure advisory. And obviously, so then that was the toss up, and I've decided I wanted to do consultancy because, all previous things I mentioned. I think design engineering is more of what I'm doing at uni as well, and I think I enjoy people skills more and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely wondered where I was going to go in the future, but I guess it doesn't matter too much. Just try stuff.
I think for me it's the same. Like obviously we all study civil engineering because we like buildings, we like, I don't know, playing with Legos when we were younger, I guess. And then I think halfway through uni, I think as you study things like structures and fluids and soils, you don't quite enjoy it as much, or at least myself personally. So the more you study, the more electives you undertake, so you get to actually choose like what you want to work on. And I decided I like project management more. And then obviously from that, I was like, why not work in the property sector? So then I worked there for about 1.5 years, and then I heard great things from CG about infrastructure and commercial advisory. So here I am at Connell Griffin doing infrastructure advisory. So I think the main thing is, even right now, I'm not sure, and I feel like you still have time until, I don't know, your late 20s to make a decision. But I think it's always important to just be ready to learn, and if you don't like something, do something about it, I guess. That's my advice.
I actually got an interesting story about my own personal journey when I was in uni. I didn't really know. So I didn't really know what engineering I wanted to do. So when I graduated from high school, I knew I was good at maths and physics. So, and naturally, all right, be an engineer then, sort of thing. So at UNSW, there was this thing called flexible first year. I'm not sure if Sydney Uni offers that. You do? Oh, that's good. Because yeah, so I enrolled in that. So just that in the first year. And then first semester of second year, I sort of go, maybe I can branch out to commerce as well, because I wasn't really sure if I like engineering that much. So then I took up engineering and commerce and did like, I think 3 commerce subjects or something. And then after that, when I was doing my commerce subjects, I kind of missed my engineering subjects. But even then, I still didn't know what type of engineering I wanted to do. And then I sort of did some research, and I found, all right, well, civil, I think this one is quite a safe one to do, because people will always need buildings, right? Like there will always be roads to build, buildings to build, and there will always be a job there for you if you take civil engineering. So that's why then I decided to, all right, move on to civil engineering. And so far it's been great, and I feel like you are definitely well rewarded if you become a civil engineer. There's different parts that you can take. Like, as I mentioned, so earlier on in my career, I was a design engineer, and that's because actually I applied to so many companies, but at the end only afforded, I think, about 5 interviews, something like that. And then at the end, WSP was the one that gave me an offer. This was way back when, you know, not too many companies are hiring graduates, and there's a bit of a downturn in the economy and all that. So I just took up what was offered to me, sort of the first one anyway. And I became a design engineer. But, you know, after 5 years, I sort of thought, oh, I might get a bit pigeonholed here. That's why I then move on to something else that is a bit more broad. And I know, like, other people who might start off broad, like who might start off as sort of more of a generalist, they like to do a lot of things, and then they sort of think, oh no, I actually want to do design engineering that is more specialized. And that's what they ended up doing after, you know, spending 3 or 4 years in sort of management consulting. So I think by sort of also agreeing with Jason, just keep an open mind, and, you know, your career path, it doesn't matter what you do now, sort of thing, you know, in 5 years time or whatever, when you're in the outside world there doing your work, it doesn't matter what thesis you did or what subject you were good at. At the end of the day, it's really come down to you as a person. And if you're willing to learn and willing to improve yourself, you can just take up any job later on, sort of thing. And yeah, your career paths can go anywhere, and there's a lot of roads to success, really.
Great. That actually ties on to our next question. So what would be your advice to first or second year students in regards to whether they should prioritize studies or making connections / attending events, or both?
Yeah, I can. I'll do that. You can just sort of do both, right? I know that sounds so cliche, like, oh, you got to do everything, but you know, definitely focus on your study, because at the end of the day, we don't want to hire people with really just pass conceded. Is that a thing? Still pass conceded, which is like just over 50 out of 100.
Yeah.
Yeah, or pass even, or just less than 50. Basically, you know, your academic marks really matter to, you know, whether a company would afford you an interview or not, right? So you definitely need to focus on your study, but at the same time, yes, like events like this, societies, getting involved in extracurricular activities, that's really good. That's one of my biggest regret, actually. Back when I was in uni, my first and second year, I didn't really get involved in too many student societies. And then it was when I started looking for jobs in my 3rd year that I'm like, oh, damn, actually, these companies actually care about your extracurricular activities and what you do other than just studying. So that's when I started joining societies and be more involved. But yeah, so definitely focus on your study, because then that gives you a good foundation, and that will, you know, the good mark is always a good one to display on your CV. And we really interview, like we would like to interview, and most companies do anyway, right? The cream of the crop and people who are, you know, academically strong. But to round that up, you do need to practice on your soft skills and management skills and communication, interpersonal, all that stuff. That then comes from you getting involved in societies and all that. So yeah, do both.
I think I would agree with Daniel on the most part, but I would put an emphasis on the social side of it maybe a bit more, because like during COVID, like I've heard a lot of students who, like friends of mine that started uni during like 2020. So for most of the degree, they've done on Zoom. I believe that's what you guys use, which means that you don't really get to interact with anybody. And then by the time you get back to uni, your high school friends have moved on. And then so you lose that aspect of it. And I think right now is a perfect environment, especially the uni. You don't have as much commitments. So I think you have more time on your hands. So I think it's the best time in your life to branch out, make new friends, and in particular, make like professional connections. Because especially with me, I feel like the networks you make with people around your age, they're not going to offer you much, right? Because they're kind of at the same stage of your career as you are. So what I found that was very useful for me during university was I reached out to guest lecturers, people that I met through networking events who are a bit a lot older, a bit older than me, for example, like Daniel, a few years older than me. And I find that the advice that they offer is more, let's say, more effective to what you need than someone your same age, because at the end of the day, they've, I don't know, a step ahead of you or just a few steps behind you, right? So that's why I feel like for me, the emphasis would be on the social side of things over the study, but that's up for discussion.
Yeah, basically don't take advice from me. I think personally, I definitely focused more on the social side of uni rather than studies. I think like, as long as my mark was decently high enough, I just, yeah, spend the rest of my time in societies or just going to campus with friends or whatever. I think that was definitely something that I don't regret. Because as long as your mark is high enough to, you know, be, I don't know, filtered out or whatever. So I guess just like with distinction or something like that. That's all I was aiming for. As long as my mark was like distinction-ish, I wouldn't really care. I would just be like, okay, I've passed with the distinction. I'll go focus on like societies, develop like other skills, which are a lot more important for me, a lot more rewarding than just studying for uni. Because you can put hours into uni and you might get a WAM that's too higher. Whereas you could use all that time making memories, do uni friends, or like, yeah, doing like leadership development, so just a bunch of other stuff. So I'd say focus more on other stuff than studies.
The big divide between.
They don't agree with me,
Yeah.
but yeah. Nah, that's true. That's absolutely true. Yeah, because like what I mentioned earlier, you need to be capable and likable to be able to sort of work for us and to be able to succeed really. And for you to be capable is, well, I suppose academically, if you're like what Bob mentioned, distinction and above, that means you're capable, right? That you're proven academically. But the likable part is when you sort of hone your interpersonal and social skills and all that. So
Where
yeah.
would you draw the line? Like pass, credit, distinction?
Oh, I don't know. Distinction, I would say.
Distinction, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, that's all for today. Were there any more questions online? Yeah, okay, all good. Well, so thank you so much, Daniel, Jason, and Bob for joining us today. I'm sure we all learned a lot about Connell Griffin and the industry in general. So thank you all for attending online. Now for the remainder of the time, we'll invite the people in person to come and have a chat with our guests. Otherwise, this concludes our event today. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.